Till 1990s, India was the biggest exporter of bicycles. Pune was called as cycling capital of India, and Indians used to love cycling.
We already have some of the companies coming up. We already have some good companies who are there in India who are into cycling and e-cycle, to be specific. So what different you are trying to build in terms of a product, or in terms of like what's your differentiation?
When I tested the e-bicycle first time in Europe, I was fascinated with it, and I said, why can't we have this product in India?
So you have raised any funding yet?
Yeah, we have raised funds, so we have raised our pre-seed round.
How did you find your co-founder in terms of like he's the right fit for you? And another thing, how you have focused on building your first couple of employees? I think
motivation comes from inside. I don't know. I think that's a by default criteria you need as a founder, that you need to be self-motivated. There will be instances that people will not believe in you. People will say that things will not work. But I think that should be your biggest motivating point.
हेलो दोस्तों, मनी एंड मोर पॉडकास्ट में आपका स्वागत है। हमारे साथ में आज एक पर्सन है हु इज़ वेरी मच मोटिवेटेड टूवर्ड्स व्हाट इज़ राइट फॉर सोसाइटी, मोटिवेटेड टूवर्ड्स डूइंग समथिंग गुड फॉर द सोसाइटी. And I have been doing like a thing from childhood, like a cycling. So till 12th I used to love it, and after that moving to a metro city, moving to a city like a Mumbai, Pune, I have lost it somewhere because the distance is far larger, like 8-10 kilometers, and cycling was never seen as a thing which is something for a richer people or a people who are of grown up age. And I have a person with me who is changing this attitude, working towards building a right infrastructure, right thought process towards growing India. So welcoming Nikhil Deshmukh. Hi Nikhil, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So started working toward building your company S Pedal. Before that you already worked with to own your companies, and so this entrepreneurship at such a young age and third company already. So ऐसा क्या था that motivated you towards taking this journey? How has been your journey toward this?
I think a lot of this thought process comes from my upbringing. My upbringing has been a very humble one. Like a middle class, like everybody's parents were there working for a job, and later on this risk-taking attitude somehow comes from my dad. So in 1994 he just quit his job and started his own business. Struggled a lot, and somewhere looking at that particular process and seeing how he made out to be taking risks got me also into thinking that I would not be doing a job in future, but would start into the journey of entrepreneurship whenever it is possible. And so I would say it all comes from my upbringing and whatever I have seen in the childhood, like how doing businesses can get you out of that loop of middle class and get into financial freedom or get happiness out of what you're building.
Yeah.
So I've seen that happiness, how my dad was engrossed into his work, how much happiness he got out of it, and that really fascinated me, and that is why I think I have been motivated enough to start my startups and get into this journey.
Yeah. So if you want to speak more about your previous companies, what you build basically, so what you were doing there and how you reached to a level of S Pedal basically.
So I think the story starts with failures. So I flunked in my engineering, and this was the second year of engineering that I flunked. And when that happened, a lot amount of relatives, friends, everybody started putting out a pressure that, bro, you're not going to be hired anywhere, and you're failed. This was the second time that I failed, and they literally told me that you cannot do anything big in life. Everybody will call you a failure. And somehow that stuck into my mind that, okay, I have a one whole year, and what am I supposed to do with this? Because I was into a branch called as production engineering. We had like 1 year of internship, 2 semesters basically. So I needed to just clear 4 papers, which I was very sure of that I would clear the next time. And when I did that, I thought, okay, I need to now prove myself, and I need to do something that people kind of start respecting me, because when you fail, everybody starts looking down upon you.
Yeah.
So I went to that experience, and I wanted to prove everybody that no, I can do something in life and I can achieve. And that somehow got me motivated. And there was this movie that I had seen and I was really fascinated about. That was Iron Man. And there was this character called as Jarvis. So Jarvis was more like a assistant an AI assistant which was controlling a lot amount of things. And suddenly a plan that I thought, ki, okay, why can't we use something like this to, turn your lights on or turn your fan on or do menial tasks that you have into a household. And I started researching on it. Ki, okay, if I want to make my lights automated, my music automated or everything automated over a voice control, what can I do? And during my college times, I was also into robotics and automation. Okay. So we started a robotics club in the college. We participated in a lot amount of robotics competition. So that is where actually my time went, apart from studies, and eventually I flunked. So due to that fascination, I landed upon starting a company which was into home and office automation.
Okay.
So I had a really good friend from my college who was into diploma at that point of time. We went back since like 8th standard in our childhood, and he was also somebody who had flunked. So we were just sitting one fine day and he's like, यार कुछ करते. So I was like, okay, करते. मेरे पास एक idea है, बहुत funny लगेगा, but कर सकते हैं. So he heard that and he said, यार थोड़ा तो out of box है, मेरे को कुछ पता नहीं है, तेरे को पता है तो I will join. So I said, ठीक है, let's take a risk. So somehow we came to know that okay, there are companies who are actually providing products, hardware, to integrate and create an automated home out of it. And there was these companies who used to import products from US, Europe, and then sell it to the distributors, and we used to like integrate it. So that's how the journey of my first company started. It was into home and office automation. Eventually, we also moved into setup of home and audio, home theaters, home and audio products also along with that. So we worked with a lot amount of architects, and that really engrossed me into technology, about getting into new stuff. And that was my first startup. My second startup in 2017, I came acquainted with a new tech that was augmented reality and virtual reality. I was very fascinated about it, and I decided that okay, this can be really a good product for builders, for restaurants.
Yeah.
And I went to a thought process where I felt that this is a good solution for visualization in the field of education, medical, and nobody was really doing anything in that phase. Then Facebook and all eventually came into it.
Yeah.
But that point of time, when I started looking into virtual reality and augmented reality, I feel there was only one company in Pune who was into content development of virtual reality. And that is how my second startup's journey started.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to also have a good partner at that point of time also. So I just approached him and he said, okay, he was a builder from a builder background.
Okay.
So his brothers were builders. And he was my friend. So one particular discussion, I just shared an idea with him that this is there. So he also agreed, "Arey, chal karte hai. I will be happy to do it." And he had the sense of marketing of how builders market their product. So it was a good way to start, and that's how we started the journey of my second startup. That was like startup number 1 and startup number 2 for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. So did you make any money out of the first 2 startups?
For the first startup, I think we made a lot amount of money, to be very frank, at the initial phase.
Okay.
But it was a project-based business. We had a lot amount of failures also into it. Money management is something that we were not good at that point of time. Managing the finances, we both were very young, and it was a bootstrap startup, so we did not have any funding or anything raised.
Yeah.
Whatever we earned, we put it into the business.
Yeah.
Expanded the company. Later on, it happened that in few projects we were not paid.
Okay.
So that really put out a financial burden on us. And we were self-sufficient enough, but till the point where we had a few amount of debt also, because we had to take loans to survive. But yeah, we were making money. There was profits. There were good amount of profits initially. Later on, due to certain challenges, the profit reduced. There were a lot amount of competitions also. Then the Chinese came in.
Yeah.
So the Chinese players started to flood the market with lot amount of products.
Home automation products.
Yeah, home automation, but the quality was not that great. But they were products. So we eventually had to reduce the margins of the product. And till the time I left, we had good amount of projects in hand. But due to my, my decision to join my family business at that point of time, I had to leave.
Okay.
So I made sure that the company is self-sufficient at that point of time. And I moved on to my father's company.
Yeah.
And with the second startup that I had, yeah, definitely I made money in that, because virtual reality and augmented reality was a new product.
Yes.
Initially, we had a big team in content developing and all. That time, even that was a bootstrap startup. My partner, he put in some amount of money, and I got in the tech and experience.
Okay.
So he was the one who was investing in initial point of time.
Okay.
Later on, he had to move out, so I took over the company again, paid off the money to him,
Okay.
and eventually when I ended, the books were positive.
Okay.
But at that point of time, I had a big responsibility of my family-run company,
Okay.
and I was the only one particular person in that company.
Okay.
So I had to put it on a pause mode,
Okay.
and I moved on to my father's company.
Okay. No, interesting. So learning must have been immense for you basically out of both the
Yes,
companies basically.
Yes.
And so more about Ace Pedal now. So how did idea of e-cycling or putting a product or building a product, something which is novel for India, basically European countries and US basically they are more adept to e-cycle or cycling as a concept. But in India, it's restricted more to kids and some amount of passionate crowd, which is like hardly one amongst 100. So how did this idea came up and how you are thinking on building this up?
Okay, so I will tell you something that till 1990s, India was the biggest exporter of bicycles.
Okay.
Pune was called as cycling capital of India, and Indians used to love cycling. It is only from 1995-96 onwards when the two-wheeler and basically the middle class income started to grow and the aspiration of middle class started to grow. We become a car-centric city and we became a bike-centric city. So if you look at the long history of transportation, say we consider 1900s. So from 1900s to 1990, that is a 90-year phase where most of the people relied on bicycles and public transportation.
Yeah.
Even if you see the old pictures and videos of Pune, you will find people only bicycling. So that culture is already there with our parents, with our grandparents, and we as kids also. I remember we used to cycle a lot. So now it's only that the middle class income in India has increased and we have started to get an aspirational product. Somewhere we feel that cycling is for poor people, or that was the stigma
that's the mindset,
attached, mindset to it, or kids do it.
Yeah.
But I see a change. After COVID, people have started to take care of themselves, about their health, about what they eat, about what they put into their body, and how they want to live their life. So there's a lot amount of change in terms of health consciousness with people. And if you see in Europe, that is what is actually putting people into bicycling, about their health concerns, about keeping the city environmental friendly and making the city more people-centric. So I see that culture coming back to India. Even if you see in the early morning now in Pune, you will find a lot of people cycling in the early morning.
Yeah.
They do it for exercise purpose.
Yeah.
So that trend is slowly picking up, and we feel that putting out such a product in the public domain where you actually show them that this is faster and this is very convenient, people will start accepting it and then ask the government to put in more public infrastructure rather than bigger roads. Because we need to understand that city roads cannot be expanded out of a limit. And the income is going to go increasing. The interest rate for buying a vehicle is very less, and people are taking it as an aspirational product.
Yeah.
So if you put out, like now you see metro is coming up and you want to use a metro, if you go to the metro stop with your car, you will not be able to find a parking space.
Yes. True.
So solutions like this will really help in that matter to connect the last mile and the first mile of the journey.
Right.
So our concentration is to have an alternative solution for people for their first mile and last mile of their journey, or for shorter distances. Say now your office is very near, you told me that you stay in Balewadi and your office is very nearby. So if it takes 10 minutes for you to cycle from your home to office, and in that 10 minutes your daily exercise element is also added, and you're not finding it very inconvenient to just cycle. And if you take your car and if you take your bicycle, I think the difference will not be more than 2 minutes of the time that it takes.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. I think because of the traffic, certainly, I think that. But infrastructure, you are speaking more. So right now, what I see is infrastructure piece is missing. So even Pune has some bit of it, but that piece is missing with rest of the bigger cities in India. So how do you see that transition happening? Because that is going to take years or decades probably. So what do you think, what can be the solution around this?
See, it's a matter of like, the question is about chicken or egg. It's a chicken and egg problem. So I feel that where you have infrastructure, like now in our city, if we consider, we have a cycling infrastructure in Aun, Baner and Balewadi.
Yeah.
We have cycling infrastructure in Pimple Saudagar, Vishal Nagar, Wakad and Hinjawadi. So when you say infrastructure, we are saying that there should be road which are cycle friendly.
Yeah.
So you need to have roads where you can cycle easily. The roads are, there are segregated cycling lanes, or at least you can travel easily by cycles, or there are shortcuts where cycle can go easily and people are not going on car, or there are no heavy transportations on that road. Or wherever the roads are bigger, you have a dedicated footpath where there's a cycle track on it, like you find in most parts of PCMC now. So from the smart city mission in India, the urban planning element, they have added cycling into it.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday they inaugurated Harit Setu project in PCMC,
Okay.
which is a dedicated corridor for urban infrastructure and people-centric city, where cycling lanes are there, dedicated cycling corridors are there. So these things are being built. But are we putting out that many number of public ride shares?
Yeah.
Are we giving people, citizens, those kind of alternative transportation modules also along with it?
Yeah.
So we have to keep up with that pace also. So where there is infrastructure, you put out. Where there is no infrastructure, let the demand come in from the people. Now if you're traveling in Pimple Saudagar, tomorrow when you have the last mile and first mile connectivity, people will automatically start demanding it. Ki we need more cycling lanes, give us more cycling. That is what has happened in Europe. If you see, their middle class income jumped from the year 1960s to 1980s, 90s. Their middle class income jumped at a very higher level.
Yeah.
That time they also were car centric cities. But later on they understood that this is not working. The roads are not going to get bigger. So now, then they started to build up something called as cycling dedicated corridors, putting out no vehicle zones, low emission zones. So this thing got cultivated later on. In London city, if you see the transformation, London is a very recent transformation in the history. In 2004, they put out something called as a low emission zone tax.
Okay.
So if you enter the city limit with your vehicle, you would have to pay a 10 pound or 8 pound tax
Okay.
to enter the city. And if you park in the city roads, there was a higher number of parking ticket rates. So people then started to park their vehicles outside the city because there's a suburban culture over there that people stay outside the city. And then later on they started to use London Underground because it was there already. Then they started to use the public transportation and then bicycling started. So now, I guess there was an article report 3-4 months back or probably a year back that the number of cyclists actually crossed the number of cars in London city.
That's a big
a
number,
big
big
impact.
achievement. Yeah.
Exactly. Once you start putting out in that mindset in people that this is a good experience. Because in India we say no, there is a rain and everything, but the rain only happens in 3 months, 3 to 4 months there's rain. And that also it doesn't rain every day. I think this year, July and say certain part of August, there was only that period where it rained 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But that's okay. You have a rest of the year where you can easily cycle. So we are trying to put out that kind of a thing to people that okay, we have the facility, you start enjoying it. And if you enjoy it, ride it.
Oh, certainly, I think interesting take around building infrastructure, how we can do it. So more about the product, when we go back, so we already have some of the companies coming up. We already have some good companies who are there in India who are into cycling and e-cycle, to be specific. So what different you are trying to build in terms of a product or in terms of like what's your differentiation?
So when we started with Easy Pedal as a concept, I went to Europe for a study tour because when I joined my father, I told you, till 2022, from 2019 to 2022, all the setup, expansion of the plant and everything was done. There were dedicated people, everything was into automation. And I had nothing to do because we could not take any more projects because of space constraints. We cannot take extra projects now. No extra clients were supposed to be taken. So I was idle. Then I went to Europe where my college friend Pratyush, my co-founder, he was working in an LED domain for last 6 years after his college. He worked with my mentor, like our mentor, Mr. Hannes Neupert. Their company is Extra Energy and Energy Bus. They work with the European government for putting out the bicycling standards, electric bicycle standards. As you know, we don't have any standards for two-wheelers in India right now. The charging infrastructure standard is not common. Therefore, that is a challenge where you don't have charging infrastructure in public space. In Europe, even though there are so many electric bicycles, there was no single charging protocol or say standard. So Hannes and their team, they spent their 8 years in this and finally was able to put out a standard for the IEC.
Nice.
And that is the experience. So Pratyush and Hannes and their team, they have a museum of 3000 pedelecs. So we call e-bicycle as pedelec. So that's pedal powered.
Got it.
So pedal powered is pedelec. In India, there is a throttle to it, which is not actually the concept of it. Throttle is banned in Europe. So you,
And that's for safety. Like, what's the
that's
reason?
more of safety concern.
Okay.
Because the body to weight ratio is a different challenge onto it,
Okay.
and there are certain drainage of battery also is consumed more when you throttle. So the concept of bicycling is pedaling,
Okay.
and if you put a throttle on it, the whole concept goes off.
Okay.
First of all, and secondly, with a pedelec, it's safer. So there is a cadence sensor or a torque sensor in your pedal. You put one pedal, it will give you a power of 3.
Okay.
That is how it supports.
Okay.
So you're pedaling, and meanwhile the motor is giving you some amount of energy
Got it.
and reducing your effort.
Got it.
So that is a real concept of a pedelec, or the original electric bicycle as we call it as. In India and in China, because a lot amount of kits came from China in the earlier market, they came with a throttle.
Okay.
And we as Indians took it because we did not have any standard at that point of
Got it.
time. We still don't have a standard. So we gave it a throttle.
Okay.
So the whole concept is misaligned
Okay.
in the Indian context. I feel some people are for it. In the industry, most of people are for it. We are not for it. We feel that you have to be, stay to the safety factor,
Yeah.
because we feel safety is a much more bigger concern than comfort.
Yeah.
So safety is first, comfort can be later.
Yeah.
So that is where we are. You can have a push button which gives you a push of 6 kilometers, but having a complete throttle is not safe.
Got it.
Then later on, when I tested the e-bicycle first time in Europe, I was fascinated with it. And I said, why can't we have this product in India?
Yeah.
So Pratyush told me that it's already there in India, but it's not so popular.
Okay.
So I came back to India and I started researching about it. Ki, boss, if this is something good, why is it not so popular in India? Then I came to know ki Hero was there, a few other people were also there in this particular journey. But I visited all the showrooms where e-bicycle was sold. Nobody gave me a test ride.
Okay. There is no taste ride for
No test
e-cycle.
ride. There was no test ride at that point of time.
Okay.
The only company which I got a test ride for was eMotorrad, and I had to go to their factory to take a test ride. Because even their vendors or their distributors did not give a test ride.
Okay.
So that's what got me stuck. And then I saw the supply chain. Because earlier our plan was to make a pedelec in India and then sell it to the users.
Yeah.
Then we understood that our supply chain is also not that great. The quality of product is lacking. Because see, if you have never driven a car and I ask you to drive a Tesla as your first car,
Yeah.
you have that kind of an experience. So I had that pedelec experience in Europe.
Yeah.
And then whatever test rides I got, I'm like, why is this like this? So the whole market was working on a cost model. Like they wanted to keep the cost of
Cheap
the vehicle
product basically,
very,
yeah.
very less cost. And they wanted to be very affordable. So their target audience was जिसको बाइक नहीं जाता है ना, वो मेरा ये बाइसिकल खरीदेगा.
Yeah. Basically, they are building from a affordability perspective.
Yes. So everybody had that mind.
Okay.
कि साइकिल अगर नॉर्मल साइकिल 20,000 की बिक रही है, ये 25 की होगी तो कोई भी ले लेगा.
Okay.
So even now that is a bigger factor in sales of pedelec, sales of electric bicycle
Okay.
in India, because you cannot call them pedelec, they are with throttle. So in India there is like I would say few bicycles which are without throttle. So with the pedelec, with the electric bicycle model, that was the challenge. And then suddenly I felt that whoever I spoke to and talked about electric bicycles or pedelec, they have never driven it. So I would say 99.9% people in India have never driven an electric bicycle. So the market is big open.
Yeah.
And when somebody drives it for the first time, they are amazed.
Yeah.
So whenever they drive it for the first time, they're like, boss, this is something great.
Yeah.
And whatever experience we give to our customers, even now, are without throttle.
Okay.
So the feeling, the smile that we get, we have so amazing videos from my team
Okay.
that people are amazed at how can this be so easy,
Okay.
and they love it. So that was the misfit that we see, that people are not getting the experience. Therefore, this product is not going into the market. People are not understanding the importance and ease of this product, and there is no good quality product in the market. Though we see some good companies now giving really good products and the quality is coming up,
Yeah.
but the motor quality or the battery quality somewhere lacks.
Okay.
And then we thought we need to make a good product. First, we need to think about quality, experience, and then we need to think about the thought process of how to put it into the market.
Got it.
And the ultimate solution that we came to was, why not put it into a ride share?
Okay, so basically the experience thing you're talking about,
Yes.
because you want to let it experience to a larger crowd.
Yes.
As such.
So the point that we thought is that let's take it into a ride share. Let's give a public the experience with 1 rupee per minute or 50 paise per minute,
Okay.
that anybody can experience.
Okay.
Once they experience it, they'll not forget it.
Yeah.
And once they experience it and are using it, then they will think of buying it.
Yeah.
So they can buy from anybody. We don't. We are like, we want to be the, you know.
Basically,
the
you are creating the awareness
facilitators.
about
Yes.
category creation for India at least.
Yes.
Pedelec.
Yes. So Pedelec category creation, I would say people have created that category before us,
Yeah.
but the awareness. So we want to become players who are getting that awareness to the people. What a good quality product is. Getting that product into the market, the experience comes and they'll automatically demand that quality with the sellers,
Got it.
and they'll have to upgrade in that manner. Then we thought, okay, first give the experience, let the demand come in, and then if they want, we will sell them the product later on.
Yeah, that's a nice, I think, business thought process as well in terms of going B2C for a premium product, I guess.
Yes. So
And when
we
you say
consider
ride
it
share,
premium.
exactly how you are planning to work it, because see, someone won't come to your showroom or maybe a distributor place. So you are going to allow ride share there as well?
See, in terms of ride share, we are putting in docks. So we have now tied up with PCMC
Okay.
and PMC both.
Okay.
So we have got our orders from both of the company, both of the municipal corporations. So we are putting in our infrastructure in the city, docks.
Okay.
So there are these public docks, they are coming in.
Okay.
So every dock is near a BRT bus stop or near a marketplace or near a metro station. And there are docks inside the societies also, because we as Indians prefer point to point commute.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have that facility inside the society.
So basically, I can take a cycle on rain from my society to a metro station.
Yes, and you can drop it and forget it.
Okay. And that will be at what cost generally, like, let's say?
So generally, we are operating right now in both the radiuses, like 5 kilometer radius, you might say.
Okay.
So you would have to spend minimum 10 rupees to 12 rupees to reach the station, and you can put it over there.
Okay, that's pretty cheap, and I think
Yes.
time saving plus health friendly.
Yes, so you just need to have that 10 rupees, 15 rupees cost per ride. You can reach, you can forget, and that's pretty convenient and pretty easy to ride.
Got
We have multiple docks. We are coming in around 80 docks in both the cities.
Okay.
PCMC and PMC, we are coming around 80 docks in both of the cities.
Okay.
Around a fleet of 800 bicycles and pedelecs, both combined. You will have two types of vehicle, electric bicycle as well as normal smart bicycles as well. So that is what we are bringing in as an experience part. Later on, once we have given a good amount of experience and people are asking for the product, then we will launch into B2C product line, where you already have the experience.
Yeah.
We are putting it our back-end service centers and everything. So if somebody wants to do servicing, they can come over there, they can buy the vehicle from there, or they can buy it from our app later on.
Yeah. And when are you coming to market in terms of B2B or B2C?
For B2P, we would be launching after elections.
Okay.
That is probably December or January that we are looking at right now.
Okay.
And B2C, we might launch after that immediately. So right now, our team is putting up the dock infrastructure in both the municipal corporations. That should be ready by after Diwali. Then we do a small amount of test phase, and then we are ready to launch.
Okay. So right now, where you are putting in your most of the energy, because see, building a manufacturing setup or building any new infrastructure or new company, I think it's very much energy heavy in terms of for a founder specifically. So how your days goes, and in terms of a manufacturing facility, what have been challenges you have faced from starting to till date?
So I wouldn't say we have taken the whole objective of manufacturing into our head. We are sitting in PCMC. We are one of the biggest manufacturing hubs.
Okay.
Then India has a bicycle capital city as well, the manufacturing city. So most of India's bicycle manufacture happens in Ludhiana.
Okay.
So there are a lot of players who are doing good quality components in Ludhiana as well.
Okay.
So certain components we are getting it from Ludhiana. Certain components we are getting from Pune, MIDC, and we are assembling the products.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say we are manufacturers, we are assemblers.
Okay.
To be very frank.
Yeah.
So that is on the vehicle front.
Yeah.
On the dock, on the other components, that we are manufacturing.
Okay.
So that I told you that we had I was working with my father, so that was into manufacturing sector. So already we had established vendor partnerships from that sister concern.
Okay.
And I have used the same vendors onto the new company, so they are making the products for us, and we are installing it on site.
Yeah.
So
easier, and I think good for you.
Yes, because as a startup, we need to concentrate on a lot of critical elements which we cannot rely on anybody else. Like the app, the backend,
certainly.
the other infrastructure that we need to build. That is something that we should have. Then there's a lot of technology transfer from Europe. As we told you that we have good amount of mentors from Europe. Mr. Hannes Neupert, Mr. Johannes is there, Mr. Moha Young is there.
Okay.
So these are.
So they are mentoring you full, like whenever the support you guys need.
Yes. Okay. So luckily they are the domain experts of various things. Like Mr. Moha Young is the domain expert of battery technology.
Okay.
Johannes is the domain expert of IoT and electronics.
Okay.
And Mr. Hannes Neupert is about city planning, strategies, electric vehicles.
Okay.
He's a domain expert of that. So a lot amount of learnings and technology transfers are coming from there, which we are facilitating to manufacture in India. So our most of the time goes in that. Then building a right team, as I told you, building the operations. So that is where we are concentrating at. That we should build a good amount of operations, good backend, and certain things that we can rely on our partners, we are relying on them.
Yeah, no, certainly. So looking at you speaking passionately about your company and about the cause, it's pretty interesting. So let's move towards a bit more about the money side in terms of fundraising. So you have raised any funding yet?
Yeah, we have raised funds. So we have raised our pre-seed round.
Okay, and what's the ticket size roughly?
I would say $500,000.
Okay.
Around $500,000 is what we have raised up till now.
Yeah.
So that was a great journey. It took us quite a long amount of time to raise.
Yeah.
our
So
first
how
funding
much
round.
time and how many investors you reached out?
So I would say around 6 to 8 months is the timeline that we were actually involved in the fundraising process.
Okay.
If you talk about how many investors, I don't have the count, to be very frank. Around 50-60, I would say. But the fact is that we had a good amount of positive notes from a lot of investors. There were a lot of investors who wanted to invest. There were a few angel investors who wanted to invest. A lot amount of VCs gave us a thing that they would like to come on to the next rounds. Right now, we are pretty much into early setup that they are not keen into that domain. Because with rideshare, there is a lot amount of uncertainty of getting the revenues. Right. So our model was certainly
pretty
lucrative.
new at least to market.
Yes. Not new, but we had a very different model. When it comes to business model, we have a very different model than the other ride shares.
Yes.
And considering that factor, a lot amount of angel investors had interest. They were ready to get on board. We had somewhere a thought process that we need somebody as our first investor who is for the cause and not for the money. So somebody who is passionate about sustainability, about the change that is needed to be brought into the society, about how we can get to a better society in terms of making our cities more people friendly. So we were looking for that kind of a person to back us, because then it's like, the mindset matches and it's a good kind of a partnership. So luckily we got that person, and he was ready to invest in us. And we closed that round early this year.
Okay.
And then started with our other processes of manufacturing and all the other stuff, team hiding, team building and everything.
Okay, interesting. So what were the other qualities or in terms of challenges you faced during the fundraising time? So what has been your experience overall? First
experience is getting the pitch right.
Okay.
So I think we must have made almost somewhere around 50-60 pitches, modifications. So the time that we started, you always start from what you see from the internet. And make a business canvas, make a model, you should have this element, that elements. And then somehow we made those, and then we realized that we are not really connecting with the audience. Then we started to modify it. Earlier we were very technical. We went into a lot amount of numbers, lot amount of, I would say data, a lot amount of examples from the other countries. And then we thought that, okay, this is too much of information. So let's reduce the information. So from 40 slides, we came down to 20 slides.
Okay.
So that reduction of that slides was like a lot amount of time. And then reduction of the data, becoming more emotional about it. Like then it became more towards कि अरे सामने वाले को समझे ऐसा pitch करो. Let them ask you the questions about numbers and all those things. But first is they should understand what you're trying to do.
What you're trying to build,
and what you're trying to build, plus what conviction you have in this product, and how do you think it will make an impact. So ये सबसे important है कि when you're making a pitch, you should be able to convey the message about what business you're building. And that took us a lot amount of time, to be very frank. After like a few VCs or few people were kind enough to give us feedback, कि you should change this, maybe this tweaks will help. A lot of investors are from Bangalore, so we traveled, we pitched there, so some of them were kind enough to give us some notes. We had a consultant also, who helped us in making our business model right. He is also from Bangalore, Darshan, and their team also helped us a lot. So then they were data analysts who analyzed our data before the investors took into it.
Yeah.
So earlier business model and later what we got to was pretty different.
Okay.
So now when you take my pitch, I would be able to pitch you that even in my dream.
Okay, yeah.
Or if you just wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll still be able to pitch in.
Pretty interesting to listen.
Exactly. So I think practice putting it out in the right sense, giving a storyline. Ki how do you come to this? So we painted a good amount of story.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like how you see in Shark Tank. It's very different from that. A lot of us founders have that experience from Shark Tank. Okay, this is how you build a story. We went to quite a few pitching competitions also.
Okay.
Learned from the other startups.
Nice.
We got few interest from those competitions also. But later on, the mentality of aligning. Ki, okay, this is the right person for us for the long run. So you just don't have to see the money. You also have to see the intent.
Yeah.
What does this guy bring on table? We wanted somebody who can guide us,
Yeah.
who doesn't let us go away from the path of what your mission is, what your vision is for the company. And that really matters a lot for a successful startup, I feel.
Yeah. No, interesting. So good that you found a right investor for you, the way you were looking. So other than investor, I think at an early stage company, finding a right team is also pretty important in terms of a co-founder as well as a team. So
Right.
how did you find your co-founder in terms of like he's the right fit for you? And another thing, how you have focused on building your first couple of employees. I think that's a pretty interesting to listen.
So basically, when I started on this journey, for first 4-5 months, I was I started it first. Pratyush was somebody who was guiding at that point of time.
Okay.
So he said, you start, I will help you in whatever capacity I can do, because he is the subject domain expert.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the business guy, so he's the technical guy.
Yeah.
And then later on, when he saw that, okay, I'm giving a very 110-20% and I'm completely into it, and he had that conviction, ki, okay, I think there is some...
Now is the time I can join.
Yes. So when I was completely motivated to do it, because he also had a lot of people from India who wanted to do a lot of stuff and wanted his help.
Yeah.
So he always helped. But that 100%, 110% about what the conviction is, that he got in 2 to 3 months. And then later on he said, okay, I'll join you. We will formulate a company and then we start.
So you made him to move back to India?
Yes. So he said, okay, I'll come back to India and we will start this journey together. So then we formulated a company. Before that, I was just like trying out things, okay, doing a research work and everything. And he also wanted to have certain amount of conviction if I am putting in my 100% and is ready to go on to this difficult journey. Because the kind of business that we are doing, or if I talk to somebody who is a businessman and see what kind of things we are doing, we had a lot amount of negative stuff also from a lot of people. So there are people who give up easily.
Yeah.
So he also told me what are the backdrop, what are the challenges in this industry.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tested us on that phase also. Like whatever questions we got, few investors were like, no, you cannot make money in this. This is very difficult. So we were like, I know it's difficult, but that is the fun part of it. If nobody is doing it, then somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
And if it is done, then you get a name, you get a lot amount of praises. That is something impossible that you have done.
Yeah.
So Pratyush was convinced. He joined us. Then we set off to a journey. Then my first guy that we hired was also from the industry. He had a good amount of experience, but we felt he was working for a different organization back then.
Okay.
And we had gone to that organization for certain amount of times for different work and all. So we said, yeah, this guy looks really nice and he's very convinced about the product.
Yeah.
It's not about the money making and all, but he knows in and out about everything and is very convinced that he is there for the cause.
Yeah.
So my first hire was for the cause.
Okay.
This guy understands what we are doing.
Yeah.
And he was always, when we talked about what we are doing, he was very, positive about it.
Yeah.
No, this is required, this has to be there, and you guys are doing amazing stuff. So then later, one fine day, Pratyush approached him.
Okay.
Are you looking for something that is like, you're changing your jobs or something? Like, I am kind of thinking to, move right now because I've been here since a long time and I think now I should look for something new. So then Pratyush said, we are looking to hire somebody. So that's how we hired our first person over there. Later on, as a team, we took a decision that we need somebody not from the regular set of MNC culture. We need to build our own team. We need to build our own people for the right job and for the right sense.
Yeah.
So we started going to colleges
Okay.
and we started hiring from the colleges.
Okay, so pretty freshers basically.
All of them are freshers.
Okay.
So we went to engineering colleges, we went to MBA colleges, BBA colleges and hired people over there.
So what do you
Everybody
look
fresh.
in people in terms of freshers? So what kind of qualities you went after?
So firstly, when we look for the people, we see what kind of mindset they have. Are they looking to do something which is for a cause or for the money? Or do they have the capacity of learning? What kind of awareness do they have for the environment, about what is going around their city, about how much positive intent they have about things? What is their perspective towards the things? We see that people should have positive aspects. So it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try again and again. But at least you try.
Yeah.
Don't say no for the first time. So my team building comes from there, that I look for positivity, I look for intent, I look for the cause, I look for people who want to go for the longer run and they get that fun part from doing the work. People are dedicated. Ki, I need to do this to make a social change. They should understand that we are an organization who wants to make a social change. So are they ready to accept that challenge, that okay, this is there. And then most of that, apart from that, what kind of questions do they ask us when we are interviewing them? And when we ask them, okay, what do you want to know about us? So we see how much they have studied us, how much they feel that they should know about us, how much curious they are in what kind of job they will be doing, what kind of contributions they can make.
Yeah.
So for me, that is more important. How much do they want to get involved in?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you do this? How do you do that? What is the idea behind this? So I like people who have that kind of approach.
Curious and ready to involve.
Yes, and then they should not be worried about how they'll grow. Because eventually if the company grows, we are making sure that our employees also grow.
That is true.
So for me, that's a bigger factor. Ki, okay, we have declared the package and everything is there, everything is set off. So, and I like people who are ready to join immediately. Apart from like, we have hired only one employee right now who was there in an earlier organization because we needed an experienced person for our leading our app team.
Yeah.
So that's the only one person who is pre-experienced.
Got it.
The rest, all my whole team is all freshers. And somehow I like that because everybody has a very high amount of energy.
Yeah.
All my interns, and they bring into a very fresh perspective about things. And they're very connected to social media. They know what things are in trending. So that also helps us in making good content for my pages. So everybody is putting an idea. So in my office, there's a culture where everybody has the primary job. That is, somebody is an app developer, somebody is the HR, somebody is into marketing. But everybody has a secondary job also. To contribute in strategies, in contributing in content making, contributing in terms of say, okay, brand mein ye karna hai, wo karna hai, perspective, because we are a social organization, like we are working for people.
Yeah.
So anybody can contribute. So our team, when we are making a price plan, everybody is involved. It doesn't matter if that person is from marketing, HR, app developer, it doesn't matter. If you're designing a marketing campaign or a content, everybody has an opinion. So we ask every team member, tell me what do you want to make as a content. Tell it, our team will make it. So right now my interns from my HR team is also content developer. My marketing team is also the content developer. My app team is also the content developer, and my UI team is also the content developer. So people, even while going home, they see a traffic jam, they record it. If they see somebody crossing the traffic on a cycle, they record it. So we have got such a real life experiences where people record it.
This is good content for your page.
Exactly.
Nice.
So team building, we have built a team which is very young, very dynamic, and they do not mind putting in the extra efforts whenever required.
Yeah.
And we are a very open kind of working culture. Everybody is communicating. So I personally make sure that I am connected to every of my team member, that I know what's going on, what he is doing, what is his working, what is bothering him, and what is going on.
Yeah.
So what are the timelines? So every day I make sure that I talk to each and every single person in my team. That's everyday journey that I have, that I make sure I had at least one small conversation with every team member of my team. Otherwise then, it doesn't feel right. And once you're communicating, even they understand what we are expecting, what is the expectation. The communication gap is reduced, and we understand what challenges they are facing through. So we do not put in a lot amount of stress on them. And then suddenly we are in a part of process of what they are working on. So I see lot amount of companies right now putting a lot of stress onto the employees, that I needed to get it done in this way, that way. So that is not the process that we follow. We have timelines, but then we also understand कि okay, is the timeline too strict?
Yeah.
Am I pushing very hard, or do I need to release some pressure? That's pretty much there.
No, pretty interesting. And I think as you will grow, I think even for you and for the team, it will be a different journey altogether. Because I am seeing, looking at the passion, I can see that you will be growing much larger pretty soon. So it will be altogether a different journey as well as the learning. So moving to another challenges which companies face is more about the cash flows. So you are already funded, that's a good thing. But otherwise, with your previous experiences in terms of liquidity management, so plus any other challenges around the business, what have been the recurrent or the some challenges which people face day-to-day business?
So I feel cash flow is a very important part of the business. You need to make sure that the revenues are flowing in and you have a positive cash flow at least, or there is certain amount of cash flow. It is okay to be not getting into profitability or EBITDA plus in the first year or the second year. Nowadays it's okay. So you should make sure that at least there is certain amount of money coming in.
Yeah.
The biggest learnings that I have is try to extract as much as possible verticals that you can get from the resources you have. So now when we are having our verticals, so we are not limited to only the income of rideshare. We also have certain amount of other verticals of revenue,
Okay.
which we are maintaining. Right now we are not starting with a revenue that will come from December, but once that start, we have multiple streams of revenue.
Okay.
So we are leveraging whatever asset we have to make revenue.
Yeah.
So that can be, say, as I told you, B2C, B2B, B2P, whatever components we are developing, we are okay to sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
Whatever products we are making, we are okay to sell it to somebody else.
Okay.
Because we are working on an open platform. As I told you that we are on IEC standard and EN standards.
Yeah.
So we can sell those products.
Okay.
Because we are integrating it. The European counterparts, they need those products to be manufactured at a lesser amount than what they are doing over there, at a good quality. So we can sell them those products as
So
well.
you are planning to export products as well?
Yeah, because that is the need of the hour. That you should have multiple revenue sources, and if that multiple revenue resources are there, then you are not bound to one particular challenge.
Yeah.
If one stream dries up due to some reason, at least the others are there. So that is what learnings I had from my previous businesses, because we were into project-based business. Then we were into, apart from that, then we were into which takes a long time to deliver. And now we are certainly into a business which is daily cash flow. So once it's a rideshare, it's a daily cash flow.
Yeah.
But there are expenses, there are expansion modes that you need to cater.
Yeah.
For that, you need multiple revenue streams. So we are leveraging, say, our same operation centers for multiple different businesses. Because we are into last mile, we can also be into last mile delivery. We can also be into B2C sales.
Yeah.
We can also be into leasing. We can also be into public share.
Interesting take, I think, on diversification of revenue streams, certainly. And any other challenges in terms of, other than cash flows, what you have seen on the day-to-day life you may be facing right now?
I think the proper planning of the funds that you have for a startup is also very important. What happens is when you get a funding, then after that, how you spend that money is really important.
Yeah.
So before you get funding, you are really working it out on every spend.
Yeah.
And I've seen some businesses when once they are funded, they spend money like anything. Like they burn money at a very faster rate. So even now that we are funded, we make our decisions very wisely. Do we really need to spend so much? Are we bargaining enough?
Yeah.
Do we need to spend on this quality of product for a certain aspect or not? And is there any alternative source of such sourcings? So still those processes are there, so that we do not overspend into certain aspect, and whatever is required is required. Whatever quality compromises you don't want to make, you should not make those. But suddenly once you have money, you go on spending spree. That's not how you will go on the longer run. Otherwise then you will replenish your whole funds, and then later on you have to go for another round, and then there is a challenge of funds as well. So that's another challenge in terms of financial management that you have. Then keeping the good accounting system is very important. Startups sometimes don't have accounts from day one. They try to manage accounts on themselves, and then later on, once they are busy into different stuff, then the challenges comes with the CA. Then the challenges comes with where is the bill for this, where is the bill for that. So from my previous experiences, I made sure that from day one we had a HR in the company. We had a proper accounting system based, that every accounting has been done. Every entry and exit from the bank statement is being calculated.
Yeah.
Because that is what on a longer run gives the confidence to the investors.
Yeah, certainly true.
They are very calculative in whatever they are doing, and they have detail of every expense.
Yeah.
So now we have our entries and exits of every particular fundings that particular amount that we have flown, and apart from that, knowing the integrities of law. That's really important.
That's, I think, pretty important in today's world now.
Startup founder, you need to know what are your tax liabilities, when are you supposed to pay what, when is your GST deadlines, which vendor is giving you GST bill, which is not, how to get those bills on time, how to give that data to the CA, then what is the TDS reduction that you need to make, what is the PF and all those things, stuff that you need to make from the employee. That's really important. Like,
pretty good to hear that you know a lot many terms and lot many things.
luckily, I have had my own share of experiences, and one of my cousins is a CA, so luckily he has given me good amount of education in that terms. So what are the advanced taxes that you need to file? What are the import duties on a certain elements that you do if you import something?
Yeah.
Apart from that, say what are the tax calculations you need to make, and when is those deadlines. So as startup founder, what happens is we are so much engrossed in the work that you forget to calculate all these things. And then understanding ki, okay, my profit percentage is this much, but boss, you need to pay tax, you need to pay all the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
So that is the initial surprises that a founder gets. That okay, from where does this come? How do we get this liability? And then with what product you're working, have you calculated all the laws and have you taken into account all the things?
Yeah.
That's also really important. And then what rebates do you get?
Yeah.
If the government is having any subsidy for a particular thing, is there any scheme that is coming from the government? So we are into EV domain.
Yes.
There are a lot of schemes. So we need to check what we can do to apply for those schemes. That's also really something as a very important factor in the initial state of startups.
Pretty interesting. So about more than a company finance, coming to your personal finance. So how has been your journey in terms of personal finance? So at what age you started investing for your personal needs, or you currently invest month on month? So how has been your journey there?
So to be very frank, in my initial days, I told you I was a part of bootstrap startups. So I had a lot of my money invested into my own company. Then investing into something else.
Yeah.
I had a bit amount of investments into very early stage into Bitcoins and cryptocurrency.
Okay.
I used to do a lot amount of trading into Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies earlier, way back. And I used to manage a good amount of portfolios for my friends also.
Okay.
But later on it was too much time taking and toll taking, so I stopped it completely. Way before Government of India decided to put a foot on it. And I thought that's a good thing to do. So after that, I started to put in some amount of funds into, your shares, but not actively trading. I kind of put my money into shares like small, not very heavy investment, but only certainly when the market falls.
Okay.
So my investment mantra is when the market falls, then only put money. And then forget it, that you have put a money, and then okay, if the fundamentals of a company is strong, like if a company like say Tata Motors comes down 5-6% or TCS comes down 5-6%, it's always good to invest.
Yeah.
MRF or some good company like Reliance and all, because of a big news in the market, like now the war has happened, so market comes down. You can put some 5,000, 10,000, whatever you have in your bank account. It's like you went for a Saturday night out and did something, that kind of an investment I do. Apart from that, I'm a risk taker, to be very frank.
Yeah.
I believe in investing in my own company.
Yeah. No, even that is a big investment, to be investing in yourself and your company. That also counts, I think, heavily in the initial years.
Yes. And then apart from that, I think you should have certain amount of say backup investments. Like you can invest in some amount of say gold or silver. That's something which is cash in hand. You always have that. But that also like you get those gold without any reduction amount later on. It's like pure
basically
gold.
Sovereign gold bonds and all you can invest there.
Yes. So that is my ultimate thing. Otherwise, whatever I have, and if I have an opportunity to contribute in something that will be related to my company, I'll do that first. And then later on think about having those investments and doing those plans. I have given that job to my wife. So she does all the investments in saving for the family. Apart from that, I am the one who is a risk taker. So I kind of invest into my startup journey as a founder.
Pretty interesting stuff, I think, overall in terms of your personal journey as well. So more about how you are seeing the next level of expansion. So you are, I think, just at the beginning of the curve right now. So how do you see your next 4 to 5 years to be?
So next 4 to 5 years, we first look at putting the awareness and setting our operation processes in the Pune market first. So next probably 1 year, we would be aggressively doing that. After that, we would be expanding into certain cities where you have good cycling infrastructure, good IT crowd, or say where people have some amount of health awareness and people are up for change. So that would be our go-to market. After this, later on, we are currently also in talks with certain amount of Middle Eastern clients where you have partnership opportunities to give the fleet, give the infrastructure, and then be the sourcing of those things. Similarly, in the European market, because we are on the European standards and IC standards, we become a manufacturing or an integrator arm for them. So we give them the whole solutions with the app, with the backend dashboard, IoT module, everything, and give out the solutions to them. So in next 5 years, we look into have a presence in like 4-5 cities in India, good amount of presence in Middle East, and some presence in the European market as well. The project that we are doing right now is on the IEC standard, which is like first in
European
Asia.
standard.
Yeah, but that's the first in Asia.
Okay.
And that would be second in the world. Because before this, there has only been a pilot that had been implemented in Stuttgart on the technology front. And after that, we are the only one. And even in that pilot, Pratyush was part of it and Hannes was part of it. So we could say that we are the first ones to do it on the charge and lock protocols and everything, on the IEC standards. And I feel that would give us a big leverage. And this would be the first time that an Indian company would be sharing data to the European counterparts to implement this product over there.
Great.
So that this is also something very important for those people as well, because they want to get to see how the product is performing, how the standards are performing. And this then becomes an important part for the publications of.
No, it's great to see a quality product coming out of India and going to European countries. So that will be a great thing to see and see you growing over the years.
Yes.
So what another thing, how as a founder one can stay motivated 24/7, 365 days, because that's a pretty interesting thing.
So I think as a founder, firstly, I think motivation comes from inside. I don't know. I think that's a by default criteria you need as a founder, that you need to be self-motivated. There will be instances that people will not believe in you. People will say that things will not work. But I think that should be your biggest motivating point. That if somebody is saying it's difficult, it's good to do it. Because easy things everybody can do it. And that is what will set you apart from the crowd. So if somebody comes and tells me, okay, this is very difficult and very Indian mentality nahi hai, a lot of people come and tell me कि नहीं लोग चोरी करके लेके जाएंगे, people will damage the product, Indian people are very vivid, they will not respect the product, तोड़ देंगे, चोरी करेंगे. I say यार, trust the people. These are our people. You will not go to Europe and say कि अरे नहीं हमारे लोग अच्छे. The change will have to be coming into our people, and we will have to make sure that the change comes in our city. So first, I think we should not bad name our people.
Yeah.
Even in the global front, we should not. I see many people over there, nahi Indians say karte Indian. Arey nahi, these are our people. We have not. It's not the case that we have been free since last 200, 300 years. It's just 75 years that we are free. Our people have got money to spend just now in last 10, 15 years. Just give them some time. Because poverty is something where when somebody is poor, you will not be able to expect from him discipline or the other factors. If somebody is poor, उसका पेट भरना उसके लिए पहले important है. That is his problem. कि वो खाना नहीं खाएगा तो that's the biggest challenge that he has. तो वो गरीब इंसान को तुम बोलोगे यार नहीं ये डिसिप्लिन में नहीं रहता है, कहीं पे भी कचरा कर रहा है. That's completely wrong. So our country is just being developed. Our people are just getting money. Let them first grow up. They're growing up now. It's almost there. We are getting the infrastructure set. So believe in them. And I feel Indian public is the best adopter. Indian public से जल्दी adoption कोई करता ही नहीं. You take it any difficult tech. I have been to Europe. Just tell them that on a signal, like just last, like this Ganpati, my mom asked me to get flowers. I was going to get flowers and suddenly there was this boy selling flowers on the street, like on the signal. I got the flowers and I said, "So ka chutta hai?" He said, "Nahi bhaiya." I paid him 80 rupees on Paytm on the signal. Now tell this to a foreigner. He'll not believe it.
Yeah.
So we are very good adopters. See, the kind of mobile adoption or the internet adoption India has done, the highest content consumption is from India.
Creation as well as consumption.
Consumption is also from India. They are attracting, like every content in the world is being made according to the Indian audience now. Most of it. कि first people are targeting Indian audience क्योंकि वहाँ से बहुत content जाने वाला है. So I feel our people are much more intelligent than we give them credit to. There are certain factors, there are some bad names in the marketplace, fine. You put in some safety elements to it, but trust in them.
Yeah.
I feel if you give them a good product, clean product, convenient product. So Harness always tells us, give a clean 3C product, give a clean, convenient, comfortable product, they will use it. तुम गंदा प्रोडक्ट दोगे, घटिया प्रोडक्ट दोगे तो लोग उसको घटिया यूज करेंगे. There's a huge difference in the metro now you see. You go on a local train, you go on a metro. You will find difference of hygiene level.
Yeah.
You will find a difference in people.
Yes.
You will find a difference in the same person behaves in metro and the same person behaves in a local train.
That I have observed.
Right?
Yeah.
So now when you go to a metro station, you feel good. सब clean है, maintained है, convenient है, cost is less. Do you see people littering in metro?
Yeah.
नहीं कर रहे यार. So point is proven कि if you give a clean product, good product, people will use it nicely. तुम उनको ट्रस्ट ही नहीं करोगे and you will think नहीं सब चोर है, तो you will not be able to make a product at all. So certain amount of trust has to go into the public and motivation वो है कि यार believe होना चाहिए product पे. And somewhere I think if you are going into the entrepreneur journey, कोई दूसरा motivation करने नहीं आएगा. You have to motivate yourself and from day one you should know that there would be people who will not believe in you. There will be people who will come and tell you कि ये नहीं चलेगा. Take them as your motivation.
Wow, super. I think pretty interesting to learn for me as well in terms of everyone even who will be watching it. So overall journey has been, I think, pretty interesting, your overall journey throughout, I think, and I hope you grow well and contribute back to the society the way you are planning your mission to be. So such a learning and wonderful journey to be. Thanks being here. Thanks being on the podcast.
Thank you. Apart from that, I think when a startup founder decides to make a product or decides to do a business venture, I learned this something very later in my life, that the product has to have some emotional value connected to the society, some particular value that you should feel good about. Even if it fails, you should be proud of failing, that at least you tried.
Wow.
And the change that, see, the price should be very big. If you make this change, you're creating a revolution.
Yeah.
So that is the motivation that will come in कि अरे अगर ये prove हो गया, if I am able to change the society, that is the biggest achievement that people will remember me for the ages. कि this was the team, this was the product that changed the city. And that is the biggest motivation कि okay, even if it fails, it doesn't matter. At least you gave your 100%. You tried to do something better. You are not selling people anything which is addictive, or you're not playing with their health. You're not playing with anything as a bad element. You're doing something good for the society.
Yeah.
So today night, Mr. Tata expired.
Yeah.
So his life is very, inspiring for all of us. That if you work towards society building, if you work in the good and betterment of society, you will get success. There will be good wishes for you. There will be well wishes for you. And certainly, I believe the universe will give you back something. There will be, so I believe in that if you're doing something good for the society, people will come in your life from somewhere. पैसा चाहिए, पैसा आएगा. कहीं ना कहीं से तो कोई ना आके दे के जाएगा. प्रॉब्लम है, चैलेंजेस आएंगे. बट अगर तुम्हारा इंटेंशन गुड है, तुम किसी को धोखा नहीं दे रहे हो, तुम सबका अच्छा सोच रहे हो, good things will happen with you. No matter what.
No,
so I believe in
pretty
that.
good. I think looking at your passion more than your product, for your passion, I will certainly try rideshare whenever you are in the market.
Definitely.
And that will be good thing. And so growth is always going to be upwards and onwards for you. So pretty interesting take. And so once you are in the market, maybe we will connect again and understand more about the product. Thanks
Definitely
a lot for
looking
being on the
forward
podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.